All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Businesses rarely just accidentally stumble into long-term success. It's almost always engineered. They actively build a sustainable competitive edge. So today, we're unpacking the absolute genius of Michael Porter's renowned strategic frameworks. And we're going to focus really closely on how companies structure themselves internally to actually win.
Think about the ultimate business problem for a second. It's the existential threat of industry competition. Every single entrepreneur and executive faces this. You've got a great product or service, but so does everyone else. So how do you actually build an advantage over your rivals? Well, we're going to introduce Porter's strategic frameworks as your ultimate survival toolkit to answer exactly that. Because it's not just about working harder, it's about working strategically to either ruthlessly minimize your costs or massively maximize your unique value.
To keep all these interlocking theories clear, we're going to take a macro to micro approach today. We'll start with part 1, the battleground Porter strategy. Then 2, zooming in, the value chain. 3, the primary activities. 4, the support activities. 5, engineering competitive advantage. And finally 6, we'll zoom back out for the value chain system. Let's get right to it.
Okay, section 1, the battleground, Porter's strategy. Before a company can even think about optimizing its internal operations, it really has to understand the external battlefield where competitive advantage is won or lost. I mean, you have to know what you're up against before you can fight, right?
In Porter's 5 forces model brilliantly illustrates this exact external battlefield. This framework basically says that an industry's profitability is dictated from the outside. You are constantly being squeezed. You've got pressure from the bargaining power of your suppliers, the bargaining power of your buyers, the constant threat of new entrants jumping into your market, and the threat of substitute products. And right smack in the middle, the intensity of competitive rivalry among existing firms. Porter argues that if these forces are really strong, the industry as a whole is just going to generate lower returns. So you absolutely have to understand these forces to figure out how to counteract them and protect your profit margins.
Right, so once you've got a handle on those external pressures, you have to stake out your position. And this brings us to Porter's generic strategies. At the end of the day, a company basically has to choose between 2 main paths to gain a real edge: broad cost leadership or differentiation. Simply put, are you going to be the absolute cheapest provider in the market, or are you going to offer something so uniquely valuable that customers will actually pay a premium for it? You have to pick a lane. Trying to do both almost always leaves a company awkwardly stuck in the middle.
Section 2, zooming in, the value chain. Now, if that generic strategy we just talked about is your final destination, the value chain is the literal vehicle that's going to get you there.
Here's the crucial point. You can't just look at a company as one giant monolithic black box. To diagnose where your true internal strengths and weaknesses actually are, you have to break the company down into its discrete, value-creating activities. From the second raw materials come in the door to the moment the final product goes out, every single step should add more value than what it costs to perform it. That gap, the difference between the value you create and the cost you incur, that is your margin. That's your profit. Take a look at this classic Harvard Business School diagram. This is literally our map for dissecting the internal engine of any organization. Notice how the overall arrow shape points toward margin, right? Toward value. Inside that arrow, everything is divided into 2 distinct halves. You've got your primary activities running along the bottom and your secondary or support activities stacked up top. Section 3, the primary activities. Let's look at that lower half first. Think of this as the direct assembly line of value creation. These 5 steps are the physical, literal journey of your product. First up, inbound logistics. This is receiving, warehousing, and managing your raw materials. Next is operations. This is where the magic happens, converting those raw materials into finished goods. Then we hit outbound logistics, which is all about distributing, sorting, and shipping that finished product out to the buyer. After that, marketing and sales, where you're advertising, pricing, and convincing the customer they actually need this thing. And finally, after-sales services. This is your installation, repair, and customer service that maintains the product's value over time. Every single one of these 5 steps is a golden opportunity to either slash costs or add incredible, unique value.
Section 4, the support activities. Now, that primary conveyor belt, it absolutely cannot run on its own. It needs infrastructure, it needs mechanics, it needs oil, and that's exactly what the support activities provide.
What's really fascinating here is that while these activities don't physically screw the parts together, scrutinizing them often uncovers massive untapped potential. Procurement is how you're sourcing raw materials and fixed assets.
Technological development covers all your R&D and process design. Human resources management is how you recruit, train, and keep your best people. And firm infrastructure is your overhead: management, finance, strategic planning. Sometimes a totally revolutionary change in how you train employees, or maybe a new piece of software in R&D, can dramatically lower costs or boost quality all the way down that primary assembly line. Section 5. Engineering Competitive Advantage. By really understanding both the primary and support activities, managers can stop guessing. They can start actively manipulating their value chain to perfectly execute that big picture strategy. This is where the rubber meets the road. Two completely different paths. If your strategy is cost leadership, you audit every single activity in your value chain to ruthlessly strip out costs. You optimize inbound logistics, you automate operations, you keep your infrastructure incredibly lean. But if your strategy is differentiation, you actually do the exact opposite. You intentionally inject premium value into your activities. You pour money into R&D, you source the absolute highest grade materials, and you offer incredible white glove customer service because you know your customer will gladly pay top dollar for that unique experience. Let's make this real. Look at Starbucks. The source material highlights how they completely engineered their value chain around differentiation. They are not trying to sell you the cheapest cup of coffee. Instead, they prioritize an upscale atmosphere, incredibly high-quality inputs, and highly trained baristas who can cater to your specific, individualized order. Every single step, from procuring premium beans to the extensive HR training for their staff, is entirely designed to support a highly differentiated premium experience. On the flip side, let's look at Walmart, an absolute masterclass in a cost and efficiency-driven value chain. During the intense early days of the pandemic, they heavily leaned on their unbelievably robust inbound logistics and technological support activities to handle unprecedented demand. Because their entire value chain was already built for maximum efficiency and scale, their grocery app registered a staggering 460% growth in average daily downloads in just a few months. Their internal activities directly backed up a low-cost, hyper-efficient strategy that just thrived under extreme pressure. Section 6. The Value Chain System. We have to remember that a firm's internal engine doesn't just spin in a vacuum, right? It connects to a much broader ecosystem. A company's internal chain is just one part of a larger system. Think about it. Your inbound logistics entirely rely on your suppliers' value chains. Your outbound logistics flow directly into wholesale or retail distribution channels. And ultimately, the whole shebang ends up in the buyer's value chain. What this means is that true, unbeatable competitive advantage also comes from collaborating closely with those suppliers and downstream channels. If you can help your supplier cut their costs or help your retailer move inventory faster, that boosts the efficiency of the entire system. And guess what? That ultimately benefits your bottom line. If there's one major takeaway from this explainer, it's captured perfectly in this quote from the source material. Simply performing the standard activities of your industry is not enough anymore. To build a distinctive competence, you literally must perform those value chain activities differently than your rivals do. You have to combine your resources in unique ways. Maybe that's a proprietary logistics system or a completely unorthodox approach to HR, things that your competitors simply cannot readily understand or match. So I want to leave you with this to chew on. If we audited your organization's value chain today, what would we actually find? Would we find a finely tuned engine where every single activity drives toward cost leadership? A unique vehicle where every step adds distinctive differentiation? Or would we find a machine stuck in the middle, just performing activities exactly like everybody else? Because truly understanding and manipulating your value chain is the real key to unlocking sustainable competitive advantage. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I highly challenge you to look at your own daily work this week through the lens of Porter's frameworks. See what you discover.